Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to go over all of the information for this new mystery chip. Well, it's no longer a mystery anyway, the Assistant Manager chip. So if you like the video, do make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe. But for now, let's get into it. So the first piece of information to note is that it can be used from game week 24 onwards. Now that is the 1st of February. The game week 24 deadline is the 1st of February, so it won't be able to be used until then, although you may want to plan around it before that. Secondly, basically, to give it a bit of an idea, it's essentially you choose a Premier League manager and you get points based on their team's performance. Now the scoring we'll go through later in this video, but we'll go over some kind of general points on it first. So once you've chosen your assistant manager, they score points for your team for 3 consecutive weeks. So when you activate the chip, it's active for 3 game weeks. So it can be used in game week 24. So if you activated it for game week 24, your manager would score points in game week 24, game week 25, and game week 26, and then the chip will be done. And we'll talk about scoring later. So then choosing your manager doesn't cost a free transfer. So once you activate the chip, the assistant manager slot will be available and you choose one of the managers. That doesn't cost you any free transfers. But during the 3 weeks when the chip is active, if you want to change between managers, then that will cost a free transfer like usual. And one really important thing to note is that no other chips can be used whilst the assistant manager chip is active. So if you wanted to wildcard, say, to in game week 25, then don't use your assistant manager chip in game week 24, because your assistant manager chip will be active for 3 weeks, meaning that you wouldn't be able to use any other chips. You can't triple captain anyone during that period, you can't wildcard during that period, you can't use your free hit during that period. So make sure that you're aware of that. Can't use any other chips while it's active, and it is a set 3 weeks, so you can't use the assistant manager chip for 1 week and then turn it off. It is 3 consecutive weeks. Once you've activated it, it stays active, can't go back on that. So that is the first points. Let's get on to the next bit of information on it. Okay, so some other points to note. If the manager that you choose leaves their club, gets sacked from their club, or leaves in any manner, then, as in when you've got the chip active, then you will still score points based on the club's performance. So as an example, let's say you decided to activate your assistant manager chip and you got in Sean Dyche. Then Sean Dyche was sacked, you'd still get Everton's points for the period that your chip is active for. So it doesn't matter about managers getting sacked or leaving a club, that you still get the points for that club. Next up, the assistant manager is part of the 3 player per club rule. So this is quite an important one. So let's say you have a triple up on Liverpool. Let's say you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, you've got Andy Robertson, and you've got Mo Salah in your team, and you activate the assistant manager chip. You can't then get Arne Slot, because you've already got 3 players from Liverpool. The manager does count towards that. So also, if you say you've got Eze in your team and you've got Mark Gahey in your team, 2 Palace players, then you activate the assistant manager chip, then you pick the Palace manager, you've then got 3 players. So 3 players, 2 players and a manager. So you can't then get Munoz or Mitchell, you can't then get another Palace player. They count towards the 3 players, which is a very important one. Then each manager will be priced between 0.5 million and 1.5 million, and their price won't change. It's not like players where you'll get price rises, you'll get price drops. Their prices won't change at all, so they will be fixed. 0.5 million. Well, we don't know the increments, so I don't know whether they start at 0.5 million, 1 million and 1.5, like at the start of the season when players are only in 0.5 million increments. That might not be the case with managers. We're not sure about that yet. But whatever they're priced at, they won't change. But what that does mean is that you will need to find the funds for the assistant manager from your existing squad. So let's say you've got nothing in the bank and you then activate your assistant manager chip. You would need to make a transfer to free up some funds to get a manager in. So in an ideal world, you would probably want to have those funds already there and ready when you press the assistant manager chip, so that you don't have to make another transfer to get those funds in to play the chip. Yeah, it's a lot of information. It's a very interesting chip, but yeah, trying to go through it all. There is some more information still, so let's get on to the scoring of this chip. Right, onto probably the most important part of the chip is the scoring and how that works. And again, slightly confusing, but we'll get into it. So say, I'll do an example after, but if your manager's team wins, you get 6 points. If your manager's team draws, you get 3 points. Each goal that your manager's team scores is 1 point per goal. And then each clean sheet they get is also 2 points, as you can see from the graphic up there. So there's also a table bonus though. And what that means is if your assistant manager faces a club that is at least 5 places higher in the table, so as an example of that, Ipswich are down the bottom, Man City are near the top. If Ipswich face Man City, that's at least 5 places higher, and you've got the Ipswich manager, you get extra points. So what it means is you get an extra 10 points for a win and an extra 5 points for a draw. So say you've got the Ipswich manager and they're playing Man City. If they win, you get 16 points for a win. If they draw, you get 8 points for a draw. So you get the extra 5 and then you get the original 3 for a draw. Or if it's a win, you get the extra 10 and you get the original 6. So that is a very, very important part of this, is that it's not just a case of getting the best manager in, getting Arne Slot in, say, and then when he's got fixtures against some teams near the bottom, because if a team near the bottom has an okay fixture that's just 5 places higher, then it could be worth taking that gamble on getting those extra points. And then lastly, one other point to note is that you can't captain your assistant manager. You can still only captain players, meaning that you can't get double points for when you're using the assistant manager chip. Your assistant manager can't get double points, you cannot captain them. So right, now I think what it's probably a good idea to do is look at an example of how these points would actually work for a situation that's already happened. Okay, so this is an example that is used on the official FPL website when there was kind of explanations on the chip. So if you do want to read all these explanations, then go to the FPL website and there is a few different articles about it. And like I say, they gave this example of Bournemouth and Iraola. So if you activated the assistant manager chip and picked Iraola from Bournemouth in game week 8, which means that you get game week 8, game week 9 and game week 10, then these are the points you would have got. So in game week 8, Bournemouth beat Arsenal 2-0. Now, that means they get 6 points for winning. They then also get 10 points because Arsenal were more than 5 places higher in the table than Bournemouth at the time. So they get that table bonus, meaning they get 16 points for winning the game. So they won 2-0, meaning they scored 2 goals. 1 point per goal, so that's 2 points. They also kept a clean sheet, meaning that's another 2 points. So for that game alone, Iraola, if you had him as your assistant manager, would have scored you 20 points. They then played Aston Villa in game week 9. They drew 1-1, meaning that they got the draw points, which is 3. So 3 points for a draw. Aston Villa were also above 5 places in the table than Bournemouth at the time. So they got the table bonus of 5 points. So for a draw, they got a total of 8 points in that game. They also scored because it was 1-1, meaning you get 1 point for a goal. And they didn't keep a clean sheet, so that's no points. So in total for that game, Iraola would have scored you 9 points. And then in the third week, game week 10, they beat Man City 2-1. So they get 6 points for winning Again, Man City were 5 places higher than them in the table, so they get 10-point table bonus. So that's 16 points. They also won 2-1, so they scored 2 goals. 1 point per goal means they got 2 goal points. They didn't keep a clean sheet, so no points for that. So that's 18 points in total. You can see how the table bonus can start to rack up. So picking a team that doesn't have the best fixtures can really work, meaning that you can get a lot more points. So just in table bonus points, they got 25 points, 10 against Arsenal, 5 against Villa, and 10 against City. So it's well worth kind of looking into, and Iraola probably wouldn't have been the most expensive manager, so it's between 0.5 million and 1.5 million. I don't imagine that Iraola would have been up at 1.5 million. But yeah, so if you chose Iraola for that game week 8, game week 9, game week 10 stint, you would have scored 47 points in total from your assistant manager chip. So you can see how powerful it is, an extra 47 points, and that's if you didn't make a transfer. So what you can do with this chip is you can make transfers when it does count towards your free transfers that you'd usually have. But say you activated the chip in game week 8, chose Iraola, and then you decided that you didn't want him for the Aston Villa and the Man City game, you can transfer him to another manager for the next 2 games of the 3-game window. Like I say, that does use your free transfers, but you can do that. And you also need the budget to do that, because if you want a manager that's more expensive than Iraola, you need to have those funds free. So yeah, that is the information that we've been given from Official FPL on this assistant manager chip. Again, it's not live until the 1st of February is the first game week that you can use it, which is game week 24. If you've got any questions on it, do drop them in the comments. I will look to answer every single comment, because this chip is very confusing. So it makes complete sense if you do have questions. But yeah, again, there's some things that we're kind of not sure on yet. Obviously the chip is brand new, so we don't quite know how some things will work, but I'll do my best to answer all questions on the information we've got. If you like the video, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.